Cast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you to the MIIM webinar on insights into India's personal hygiene sector. This webinar is sponsored by Make in India Mittelstand program, which is an initiative of Embassy of India Berlin, and it's driven by India's government of India's national program Make in India. Make in India Mittelstand program is have been uh, launched in 2015, and it has been running with the program partners such as Euroasia Consulting, who is our knowledge partner. Then we also have our facilitation partners from government side, which includes Invest India, and then there are 9 state governments, includes Gujarat, Maharashtra, Punjab, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, and others. We also have tax and legal partners onboarded. One is Khaitan and Company, which is Indian legal firm, and the Rodan partner, which is coming from Germany. We also have banking partners, Deutsche Bank, KfW, and State Bank of India. Chamber of Commerce is Indo-German Chamber of Commerce is our partner, and also a technology partner, Geeta from India. MIIM is the business support program for German mid-size and family-owned companies, which provide services for the investment-related queries focused on India. We have hotline email account where our investors can approach us for all the queries. We also conduct regular workshops and webinars on which are open and free of cost for all the member companies. These workshops webinars are conducted on general investment related topics, or also to present the opportunities in various sectors like we are doing it today. We also conduct dedicated customized workshops for our member companies, which are very focused on the particular interest of one company. For example, if company wants to understand just let's say transparency on custom duties on their products, or finding the right location in India and understanding the which state would be the best suited for their investment. So on these kind of topics, we conduct the customized workshops as well. We also conduct a yearly networking event, which is on hold right now because of the COVID situation. As of now, we have 151 members as our in Make in India Mittelstand program, which has declared investment of around 1.4 billion euros. That includes 68 manufacturing plants, 29 expansions, and 27 subsidiaries. Out of 1.4 billion euro, 447 million euro has been already implemented, which includes 20 manufacturing plants, and 488 million euro is under expansion, under implementation. So I would like to welcome to the MIIM webinar, and now I would like to invite our speaker from Euroasia Consulting, Mr. Sachin Choudhary. He is managing consultant with EAC. He heads the consumer goods, healthcare and chemical practice at EAC Mumbai office. He is with EAC over 6 years now. He is a chemical engineering. He is a chemical engineer and has more than a decade experience in research and consulting space. He handles strategy and operational excellence related consulting assignments for our German clients. Now I'll just switch to Sachin's presentation.
Thank you, Ketan, for the introduction. Hello, everyone. So I am Sachin. I am representing EAC here today, and I will be taking you through the insights that we have put together on personal hygiene paper. Let me put the video off so that I'm audible well. Yeah. So Ketan, can you switch the slides, please? All right. So before I give you a quick introduction about EAC as to who we are and what do we do, I would briefly like to tell you that EAC is an official knowledge partner of MIIM. We are associated with this program for more than 5 years now. We help a lot of German Mittelstand companies capitalize on opportunities that Indian market offers by helping them in their business initiatives for India. So moving on. Yeah. So we as EAC, we are a German management consulting firm. We have almost 100 plus consultants in our offices, and we are very much focused on emerging markets. So we have offices in Munich, Shanghai, Mumbai, and Moscow. If I talk about our functional competencies, so historically we've been delivering our services in three major functions, which is strategy, M&A, and operation excellence. And now we have added another two functions, which is digitization and sustainability, because a lot of work are happening in these two functions as well. In terms of region, we have a team in China, which takes care of China, Japan, and Korea regions. We have a team in India sitting in Mumbai. Through this team, we take care of India, Southeast Asia, and some part of Middle East as well. And we have a team in Moscow, which takes care of Russia as well as CEE. In terms of industry competence, we work a lot in mobility space, industrials, building and construction, pharma, chemical, consumer goods, and also exhibition. So that's where our industry competencies are. So I think that was a quick introduction on EAC. Now I would straight away jump into the topic, which is today's discussion, personal hygiene. So before I actually get into the market size and the growth opportunities, I would like to give you a reflection on the demographics, because right now what we are talking is a personal hygiene industry, which is a consumer product. So it is important for us to understand the dynamics of population in India. So we are the second largest populated country in the world after China, with almost 1.3 billion population. We represent 17% of global population. In terms of middle class, I would say 65% of the population is in the range from 15 to 64 years of age, and we rank 12th when it comes to global wealthy population, ultra high net worth individuals. Now, shifting your attention to the middle space of this chart, you can see if I look at a last 15 years scenario from 2005 to 2018, we have grown from 219 to almost 300 million households. And within these households, now the share of middle class is 21%. So that's the kind of growth that we are talking about, and that's the kind of consumption we are talking about here. And also I would like to draw your attention to the fact, a number which is not there on this particular chart, that the average age or the median age in India is 28 years. And if I compare this median age with that in China, it's 38 years. And the median age in Germany, because most of the audience in this presentation is from Germany, is around 46. So if I say historically, if I look at the history, our culture, we are a very, very old civilization. But when it comes to population, we are a very, very young country. With half the population of India is below 28 years of age. And that's where we say that we are a consumption story. The consumption is going to grow, the middle class is going to grow, and we will outshine all other major economies when it comes to consumption. Moving ahead, that was about demographics. Now talking, give you a bit landscape on economy. If we look at pre-COVID levels, if I look at FY 16, 17, 18, 19, we were growing at a rate of about 5 to 6%, every year. But because of COVID, some disruptions happened, and then we had a degrowth, which is in financial year 21. And then now we are in a, I would say, a rebounding state wherein we are trying to regain whatever we've lost in terms of growth rate in our GDP. And it is expected that from financial year 2022, we will again come back to pre-COVID levels of 5 to 7% growth. So here on your right, you can see the how GDP has moved from quarter to quarter. So if you see Q1 21, and by Q1 21 I mean the financial year first quarter of financial year 2021. So there we had a dip of about minus 23%. So this is probably for the first time India would have seen a degrowth like this post independence in the last 60 to 70 years. This was our economy was majorly hit in this particular quarter. but then rebound happened, and we are on the path of a recovery. So if we see, hello, I lost the presentation.
Yes, Sachin, we can
Yeah.
hear you. I
Yes,
guess
yes.
just give us a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So in quarter 4 21, we if I look at GDP, we are at about 0.7% if I compare the GDP of the same quarter last year. So that's about macroeconomics. Yes, we were severely hit by the COVID, but we are on the path to recovery. And most of the major financial institutions like World Bank, Reserve Bank of India has predicted a growth of about 5 to 7% in the coming years for India. Now talking a bit about COVID and the impact on personal hygiene industry. COVID-19 has impacted human race in more than one ways. COVID has changed quite a lot, be it in terms of industries, in terms of value chain, the way we work and the way we take care of ourselves. And if I look at industry landscape, COVID-19 impacted most industries in a negative way. But there are some winners as well. If I look at personal hygiene industry and medical device industry, so these two industries are doing exceptionally well in current times. People in India have become, hyper conscious about hygiene, not only in terms of hand washing, but the overall aspect of hygiene. And they are also spending disproportionately on personal and home hygiene products. So to substantiate what I just said, we have a few numbers on the right, you can see. And these numbers are actually a representation of percentage of total households. So if I talk about sanitizers, just 1% of the households were using sanitizers in 2019, and this has reached to 45%. So 45% of households are using sanitizers, and the demand is even more because the consumption has increased. So the amount of sanitizers that was needed by this 1% in 2019, that amount would have quadrupled or would have gone 5 times with the same number of households. Similarly, if you look at hand washers, 2019 pre-COVID levels, it was 12% of the household using hand washers, but now it's penetrated to almost 33%. Same story with the floor cleaners. It was 14% before, and it's almost 20% now. Let's talk about getting into the market, seeing the industry and these segments. If I talk about Indian personal hygiene industry, so here basically we are talking about 3 segments: personal wash segment, feminine hygiene segment, home hygiene segment. We are talking about these segments because I would say this personal hygiene industry is kind of evolving because of COVID, and these 3 segments are I would say most important in current times. But in case any of the members in the audience would want to know more about other segments or maybe a larger picture in the FMCG segments, please do connect with us and we'll be happy to help you with whatever we can. Probably in the end of the once the webinar gets over, you will get this presentation and the contact details as well. So talking about personal wash segment, we have products such as bar soaps, liquid washes, hand washers, and hand sanitizers. But the majority of this particular segment sits with the bar soaps. The others are very new segments, but they are growing post-COVID. Talking about and also let's also talk about the kind of players which exist in the personal wash segment. So we have players like HUL, Wipro, Godrej, RB, ITC, and Patanjali. And this particular sector of Indian personal hygiene industry is expected to grow at a rate of 15% over the course of next 5 years. Now talking about feminine hygiene segment, the size of this segment is almost €500 million. And here we are talking about products such as sanitary pads, which is about 80% of the volume, and then others, including menstrual hygiene products, toilet seat disinfectants, and so on. This particular segment is in India is primarily dominated by P&G and J&J, and both of them together has about 90% of the market share, of the organized market share, I would say. And this particular segment is expected to grow at a rate of about 17% over the course of next 5 years. Talking a bit about home hygiene segments, this is also close to €500 million market, and the leading products in these segments are toilet cleaners, floor cleaners, disinfectants, and some of the companies which are actually dominating this particular segment are IB, RB, Dettol, Harpic, Henkel, ITC, and HUL. This segment is also expected to grow at a rate of 16%. But I think going forward, right now we are in a lockdown kind of situation. So even if we do not have, full-fledged lockdown now because India is out of second wave of COVID, there are places which are still, restricted in terms of entry. So, for example, right from the onset of COVID in February, March 2020, we have not seen schools opening. So in India, if I say people which are less than 18 years of age, it'll be a good 30% of the population, and these are the kids who go to school less than 18 years of age. But that's a segment which is right now closed. But as and when the schools will start opening up, the demand for these home hygiene segments will definitely increase, and it could go, it could increase by leaps and bounds. So this is about the three segments that we want to discuss. Ketan, can you move to the next chart? So here, basically, we are talking about one segment, which is personal wash segment. And if you look at, as I already said, this is a market of about 2.4 billion euros. And the kind of brands that are there in the market. So we have companies like Wipro, which has a very, very renowned soap with them, which is Santoor. It's a brand of Wipro. Then we have HUL, and they dominate the segment with their brand called Lifebuoy. Then again, there is a Lux brand, again belonging to HUL. Then we have a Dettol brand by RB. And then there are a couple of others by HUL only. So in terms of industry landscape, you see, this segment is primarily dominated by Hindustan Unilever. And then there are some homegrown companies of India, which includes Dabur, Wipro, and Godrej also here. So if I talk about key developments in this industry, I think naturals and Ayurvedic has dominated the narrative for the last few years. A lot of people are talking about, healthy products, products which have natural ingredients, products which do not have any sulfates or parabens in them. Products which are derived from, let's say, Ayurvedic components. So this is something which is definitely a buzzword in India for the last few years, and this is going to remain same even during COVID time and post-COVID times. If we talk about hand wash segment is has a size of about 100 million euros right now, but it is likely to quadruple over the next 3 years. That is because COVID has actually changed the way people take care of their hygiene. So there's a habit that people are inculcating in themselves in terms of hand washing and other things. So that will definitely drive this particular market. Hand sanitizer segment, which was pretty much, I would say, non-existent pure before COVID, is also making headline, and this segment is expected to be about 70 million euros, and it was 70 million euros in July 2020. And the number that you see here is I would say for very, very organized segment. Already entered in this particular space. So it's not just that a Unilever or P&G or a Reckitt Benckiser are expanding their product portfolios in order to capitalize on the demand which is being generated in India. A lot of other companies which are not even in personal care segment. So for example, there are companies which make lubricants for automotive industry. They have branched out into making sanitizers. So like this, we've seen a lot of companies, a lot of chemical companies who were earlier not making a product like sanitizers, but all of them have started making sanitizers. So that's the kind of demand that we have for this particular product. And companies, what we have also seen that companies are actually changing their storyline when it comes to marketing. So for example, you can see a picture there on bottom right. there is a soap called Santur. So historically, this is a well-renowned brand in India, and they have always positioned their product as, it is a soap for younger-looking skin. But right now, if you see, they are adding another dimension to it, wherein they are saying the soap is helping you protect the germs. So the narrative of advertising also has changed quite a lot in the past 1.5 years. So the buzzwords that we have seen in this particular industry is hygiene and innovation and immunity boosting. So most of the companies are developing new products, entering into new products, and advertising them with the same storyline of hygiene and immunity. So that's how this market is shaping up. That has in the last 1.5 years. Moving on. Right. So here on this chart, I want to talk about some of the key leading companies which are present in this segment. So we have Godrej. So historically, this company is into soaps and mosquito repellents, but they have introduced a new brand now, which is called Protect, and they are planning to launch 10 products in this. So this company plans to grow to about 5,000 million INR in the course of next 3 years. And these 10 products that they've launched looks like will definitely help this company realize its dreams. So expansion into new categories will definitely help the company. So you can see how companies are planning new products and how companies are targeting customers for these new products. Talking about ITC, ITC is a Indian conglomerate, and they purchased Savlon brand from Johnson & Johnson in 2015. Savlon is basically a liquid antiseptic, quite a household name in India, and probably you go to any house, you will definitely find a bottle of Savlon. So this company also, what it is doing, it is capitalizing on the brand value it has already made for a product like Savlon, and they have extended this product into various other segments. So right now, within the Savlon brand, we have soaps, we have hand wash, we have disinfectant liquids, we have sanitizers. So this is how companies are capitalizing on the demand, on the goodwill, on the brands that they have created over the last few decades. Talking about Dabur, Dabur is a homegrown Indian FMCG company and quite active in Ayurvedic space as well. I would say if we leave out Patanjali, Dabur is probably the biggest Ayurvedic company in India as on date. And what we see is that historically the soaps that they would bring into the market, now these soaps also have a tagline called immunity boosting. And they recently launched a soap which is named as Sanitize. So companies are again, so if you see, these are top multinational companies and some big time homegrown companies. All of them are looking forward to capitalize the opportunities either by introducing new products or either by extending the product line in the brands that they've already created. Same is the case with Unilever as well as Imami. And I also would like to draw your attention to the fact that Indian FMCG sector saw the launch of 1,800 plus new products in March to August 2020. And if I compare the same product last year, only 102 products were introduced. So from 102, the new products went up to 1,800. So that is what COVID has created. That's a kind of disruption it has managed to create in personal hygiene industry. Moving on. Right, so we have a few trends here, and of course, when we talk about the trends, we talk about that India is a consumption story. There is rising disposable income. There is migration from rural to urban. There is a need for healthy products and things like that. But here we have basically just kept a few trends which are very, very relevant in today's time and which actually have caught up the headlines in the last 2 to 3 years. So there is a good focus on sustainability. So for example, when we had when the cases started coming in February, March 2020, most of us in India were in a situation of panic buying. So we knew that something like we were aware that a lockdown like situation might be implemented in India, because before that many countries already had COVID, and the lockdown were in force, such as Italy and Spain. So we were also aware that probably we might move into that direction. So March and April, especially March 2020, was the time for panic buying. So everybody would go out, buy whatever sanitizers they can lay their hands on, whatever soap they can get. So we had a lot of panic buying, and we hardly had the demand was so high that there was a gap. When you would go out in the market for buying a sanitizer or a soap, you wouldn't find it in the market. So that was the situation. So for example, in Mumbai office, our office is in Mumbai, and when we were looking for getting sanitizers for our office, we could not get it from Mumbai nearby areas. We had somebody traveling from Chandigarh who brought in sanitizers for the office. So that was the kind of panic buying situation we had. But right now, people have made peace with the fact that COVID is here and is going to stay probably till the time we all get vaccinated. We may see a wave 3 or wave 4. So people are becoming more conscious about their needs. They are focusing on sustainable products. They are now not just buying anything that is available in the market, but they are quite focusing on products which are healthy, which are green, which does not have chemicals. So this trend we are seeing quite a lot these days. So another one is beauty to hygiene. So there was a study done by Amazon which shows that there's a slight decline in the makeup product in 2020 as compared to a 65% increase in bath body product in the same month in 2019. So we clearly see with the kind of movement restrictions we have, most of us are working from home. Most of us are not going out to malls because we have restrictions. Even the cities which are quite open, they are open until 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. So late night restaurants and bars are not open. So we have seen a good amount of shift from beauty products to hygiene products. So people are spending less on the beauty products and spending more on hygiene products. So that's a big trend to watch out for. Then definitely there's a demand for immunity boosters. So in India, I think advertising plays a lot of role in terms of how the products get sold. And immunity is a buzzword in this COVID era, and the people understand that if you have a good immunity, you will probably be able to survive COVID. And the products which are doing the rounds in the market, they are being sold under the name of immunity or immunity booster. So this is another trend where companies are trying to lure customers in selling their products. Then we also have advanced products. For example, people have been using a lot of soap and sanitizers which leave their hands quite dry. If you wash hand, let's say 4 to 5 times a day, and if you keep sanitizing your hands, which is the current trend, so it leaves your hand dry. So we see a lot of gel-based sanitizers that have come up in the market, and these sanitizers are being advertised by saying that these sanitizers contain moisturizers and it will leave your skin conditioned. So these are the new advancement in products that we see. It's a very new trend. And then of course the tested and approved products. So people are definitely want to buy the products which have some sort of certifications or approvals, either from FDA or from local authority or from health department. But if the labeling of these particular products says that they are approved by Indian authorities or maybe FDA, then it has definitely impact on a human psyche here in India. Moving on. So the kind of opportunities that we see these days is definitely one for hygiene products and self-cleaning surfaces. So I want to talk about a company which is a Indian homegrown company, Vetro Power. They have launched a 90-day single spray surface disinfectant. Now, what this product does, it is a one-time spray solution. It actually self-disinfects a surface for 90 days, and you do not need to use it. So these kind of self-cleaning services, surfaces, and these kind of innovative products are ruling the market. So these are definitely are here to stay, and these sort of innovations are definitely I would say opportunities for companies to grab and look into. We also have a lot of UVC appliances. So these days, if you go out, probably you will find some shoe cover dispensers and even UV sole sanitizing machines in the market. So a lot of sanitizations happening with the UV, and you can see these equipments all around. So that's another area of opportunity that we see. A lot of haptic solutions are there in the market. So for example, when you whether it's automatic dispensers wherever you go out, or these are sensor taps or automatic operated toilets and bidets. So a lot of trend is shifting towards these spaces. And then we have automated washrooms. So these days, for example, right now I'm giving this webinar from a co-working space called Regus. So when I'm here, I do not, other than my table and chair, I do not have to touch anything out here. So you go to the washroom, automatically it opens all the cleaning mechanisms in terms of water or hand dry. Everything is automated, and you do not have to touch any surface. Everything is contactless. So these are this is how the market is developing, and this is how I think key opportunities can be tapped in this particular space. Right, talking about challenges also. So everything is not as beautiful as it looks. So every industry has its own challenges, and this personal hygiene industry is definitely no exception. So we had a lot of problem in this particular industry because of the lockdowns and restrictions. Because then when there's a lockdown, there are restrictions, then your movement is being monitored. A lot of people come from rural areas to urban areas for work. So during their lockdown, the labor force went back to their hometown. So we had these operational difficulties in running the production smoothly during the lockdown periods. But now it's almost 1.5 years, so industry has learned to cope up, how to keep the operations running. So that sort of learning has already come in. But yeah, it was a key challenge that the industry has faced. Second important challenge was the shortage of raw material, because for most of these products we need some chemicals, we need some APIs, and we were heavily dependent on China for some of the raw materials. But due to restrictions, due to lockdown of borders, we did have a lot of problems in terms of shortages of raw material, which probably looks like that government is taking a lot of steps to solve this problem, and to incentivize the industry if they start making these products in India. I think maybe Neelashi from Invest India will touch upon the government regulations and the government policies in the next presentation. So the cost of raw material was also a challenge because it increased from 30 to 50%, and we also have a multiple new players coming up into the market. So the market is getting overcrowded. Most of the companies are getting into these hygiene products. So the unorganized segment is also taking a bit of share from the organized players. And talking about the opportunities, definitely we have opportunities in the natural and chemical-free products. We are talking about sustainability a lot these days. We talked about the high-tech products, haptic solutions. So that's another opportunity. Investment in raw material segments. So a lot of chemical companies are investing in APIs and the chemicals that we would need for personal hygiene industry. So a lot of activities happening in that particular space, and I think that's something that that companies should tap into. And also research and development services, because this is an innovative industry, and new products with newer ingredients is something that will make or break the game. And of course, digital service offering for market penetration. So in India, yes, we are a big country. We have demand centers which are spread across the length and breadth of the country. In terms of infrastructure, we may not be very, very strong. So we need to have some digital means to reach out to the customers and make them aware. So that's about the opportunities. And I think that's where I conclude this presentation. Maybe we have one or two charts on EAC now.
Yeah, Sachin, I guess you have already extended time by 5 minutes. So if you can just conclude in next 1 minute, and then we can
Sure.
share the rest of charts with the audience later.
All right. All right. So this is our industry competence. So you can see in terms of FMCG space, we have worked with a lot of reputed European and German companies. We worked with Faber-Castell, Stiegel, Brita, BSH, Hans Grohe, which is into faucets, Hafleys, Melita, which is into coffee vending machines, and WMF. So this is our clientele in this particular segment. I do not want to take more time and deep dive into it. Maybe you can read the charts next, Ketan. So here, basically, what we are trying to say is our USP. We are a long-term partner. We are in the Asia for about 25 years. So we have the local expertise. We have the local talent based in these countries. We actually are a customized service provider for our clients. We do not have any off-the-shelf report. We provide value to our client because we work from till the last mile. So right from the research support that you need to the strategic support to the implementation support, we help our client till the last mile. So that's how we are placed at EAC. And with this, I think yeah. So I talked about this, that we provide services within strategy, M&E, operational excellence, digitization, and sustainability space. So this is all from my side, and thank you, Ketan, for giving me this opportunity. Over to you now.
Thank you, Sachin, for the excellent presentation. We already have 2 questions came in, but I'll hold those questions for the Q&A session. So now coming to our next speaker, Ms. Neelashi Shukla. She specializes in global trade and investment strategy with wide experience in corporate strategy, business advisory, and economic diplomacy. She is currently responsible for facilitating inbound investments across Western Europe region and consumer goods sector at Invest India, the National Investment Promotion Agency at Indian government. She has earlier worked with Niti Aayog, steering India's strategic economic partnerships, and co-founded a startup for talent mapping. She is also contemporary poet and author of two books. So now over to you, Neelashi. I'm just making you presenter so you can share your screen.
Thank you, Ketan. Can you see it?
Yes.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ketan, for the lovely introduction, and thank you, Sachin, for a wonderful presentation, very insightful, and thank you for focusing on the demand side of it, so that now I think my presentation will focus more on the manufacturing opportunities in India under the larger ambit of personal care and hygiene segment, where hygiene is a sub-segment, as you very nicely mentioned to us earlier. So just getting right onto it, as you're aware, the personal care and hygiene is a very, very vast segment for India. It's highly consumer driven. We have about a $17 to $18 billion market as we speak, out of which, as pointed out by Sachin, over $3 billion of it comes from the hygiene space. Also, you can see that there has been a very steady growth in this sector, consistently, on an average rate of 9 to 10%. We have been growing, and this growth is spread across almost all categories within the personal care and hygiene space. Out of those, I think the growth recently has been driven by 3 subcategories, which you can see in terms of makeup and cosmetics, in terms of men's grooming, as well as fragrance and deos. The good thing about this particular growth is that, as you can see, it has not yet been struck by a great rivalry or intensity of competition. So there's enough of the pie there to be shared around the room across stakeholders. So that is again one aspect that's showing a lot of progress in India. If we look at the export and the trade side of it, we can see that India has had a favorable trade balance when it comes to personal care and hygiene products, and our exports have been consistently topping imports, and also the gap has been widening in our favor consistently over the last 3 years. In terms of how spread across we are, we can see that there's in fact been a 26% growth in our entire export portfolio, which is also dominated by a growth in our cosmetics portfolio to a large amount of countries, and that ranges from over 10%. Now, what's interesting about our exports to other countries is that, as you would have guessed, of course, we are exporting to a lot of our neighboring economies in Asia as well as the APAC. But we've also been a steady supplier of cosmetics to the United States. And that is something that will probably come into play later when I talk about the regulatory environment also that dominates this particular sector. Another interesting fact that we noticed was that in the last year of this tabulation, the growth of exports to Hong Kong have steadily increased from India, across the cosmetic space. So of course, there's a wide scope for us to kind of expand across all of these segments, and also to expand in terms of geography and actually leverage India not just as a production hub, but also as an export hub for this particular segment going forward. In terms of the market share, you can see that most of the bigger players in India are manufacturing. Either they are manufacturing on their own, or they are contract manufacturing, subcontracting these activities across the country. The market is dominated by Unilever, as was also pointed out by Sachin earlier. While the other, if you see, as I already mentioned, it's a very, very intense market, but at the same time, it's a huge growing market. So there is, enough scope for people to kind of enter and share, in terms of growth. At the same time, you can see that in terms of manufacturing, as was already mentioned, that our demand has been pretty widespread, and hence manufacturing in this demand-driven industry has also been widely spread across the country. But you can also observe that there are 3 clusters if you observe this map carefully. One around the Baddi region in Himachal Pradesh and northern of India, one around the western region, which is basically Gujarat, where there's great port connectivity. It is the coastal region there that you can see on the left-hand corner of this particular map. And the third region is the Maharashtra Pune Chakan belt, where a lot of entities have established their manufacturing presence. Now, all of these clusters and manufacturing units are across the different segments and categories, whether it is Ayurvedic or cosmetics, whether it is a soap manufacturing cluster in the Baran region, or it is state-led industrial development corporation founded clusters that are there for general purpose use across the country. Now, there are 3 important factors in the manufacturing of personal care products that play a very strong role in making India a very competitive and attractive market. The first is, of course, the presence of raw materials. The second is our competitiveness in terms of labor and utility costs, and the third is in terms of our readiness in terms of infrastructure and connectivity. When it comes to raw materials, I would like to specifically focus on our advantage in dyes and pigment segment, which is essential in the manufacturing of cosmetics. India, in fact, has a very strong manufacturing presence, which is concentrated around the western region of the country, in this particular segment. And it has also been consistently, exporting this, sharing our capabilities with the rest of the world. In fact, India's share is about 15 to 20% in the global market for, this particular segment. So not only is India then, contributing to the value chains within the country, but also helping other countries and other, other subsidiaries of parent entities across the world grow in this particular domain. Other than this key raw material, there is also, there are other some raw materials that India is consistently building domestic capabilities across categories and also scaling in. We've tried to capture some of them and where the end use of those are on the left hand side of this particular slide. But also you can observe and some of these trends have also been mentioned by Sachin in the past, but why I would like to mention them here is because there is a great link between how we have sort of indigenized our capabilities in manufacturing these key raw materials and enhancing value chains, as well as scaling the entire sector, and also inviting a lot of innovation and technology-led startups to come and partake in this growth story. So you can see that a lot of leading companies now, including Unilever, including Godrej, including L'Oreal, are substituting a lot of their raw materials that are produced. Substituting a lot of their raw materials produced in the country through, actually indigenously manufacturing them now, or sourcing them through sustainable means and with a sustainable push. There are a lot of homegrown startups, which are in fact the ones that have accelerated this particular shift. This is also, complemented by the rise of D2C channels of distribution across, these startups, which are, also investing a lot on R&D, AI-led technology, spending a lot of effort on what the customers are thinking, and making a very, very futuristic sort of an approach to this particular industry. In fact, it's quite interesting that some niche products, for example, sheet masks or a lot of Korean beauty products, which have actually come into the country through these startups, are now also being adopted by companies like Unilever, which in its recent annual plan actually announced foraying into a premium beauty care segment, catering to those hypersensitive, personalized beauty care regimes of a lot of people. Again, within those raw material capabilities, we can see that we have also consistently been expanding in terms of our export competitiveness, whether it is in terms of exporting surfactants, where there's been a 10x growth, in fact, in the last 2 years itself, or some of the other imports some of the other imports that go into the manufacturing of these commodities. Again, coming to the second most important part in terms of our competitiveness for labor and utilities, as you can see very evidently from this analysis, is that of course India is quite competitive with similarly positioned economies in terms of labor. Our productivity has been growing, in fact, faster than our wage rate has been growing. So this is something that's going to be here to stay for a very long time. Given, of course, our wide population and our demographic dividend favor, I think the labor advantage becomes very, very, favorable in the times to come in terms of actually giving us a lot of opportunities of growth in this sector. In terms of other, utilities cost, also you can see that we have a significant advantage and we are competitive, which of course leads to cheaper manufacturing within the country and greater scope to kind of attain larger scale. Of course, all of this is also complemented, with our well-positioned infrastructure, whether it is, based on multimodal connectivity, whether we are talking in terms of efficient turnaround times, or extensive rail network, or extensive road network, which extends to about 140,000 kilometers of highways. We have a wide coastline, about 7,500 kilometers long. And so, of course, all of that complementing together, the robust infrastructure that can actually help, enhance exports from the country to other locations and actually position India as an export hub. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of some relevant agencies that could be responsible for personal care and hygiene operations in India, just with a disclaimer, this industry, so to speak, is pretty unregulated. It's a very, very fair marketplace, sort of a driven industry. The only thing you require are some, standard manufacturing licenses and a few other licenses which could go into producing a few commodities which are covered under Drugs and Cosmetics Acts. So one such agency, of course, is the Central Drug Standard Control Organization, or the CDSCO, under the Ministry of Health in India. The main mandate of this is to basically, regulate that all the imported products that are coming into the country are registered and licensed with the CDSCO. And it is a very decentralized mechanism because the states also have their own representative offices to do the same thing for the ease of, doing business at the state level as well. Now, one disclaimer again that I would like to put here is that although it says cosmetics rules, the rules do not just talk about cosmetics. They are quite wide in their interpretation, and they include a wide range of personal care and hygiene products also within the ambit. Again, in terms of trade for a lot of export oriented production that we had mentioned earlier as well, and since US has emerged as a top destination for that, we can see that FDA approval from the United States comes into play in terms of importing colored cosmetics from India to these locations based on the regulations that exist in that economy. Again, the third important agency that I would like to really focus on is the Bureau of Indian Standards. This, in fact, agency is an overarching agency across all segments, which also includes, of course, personal care and hygiene within the country. The main mandate is just to ensure that there are quality standards which are enforced both in manufacturing as well as in exporting from India while that happens. Now, the fourth one, which is NPPA, is something that has come into play only in the wake of the pandemic, where a lot of especially sanitizers were being made. A lot of companies repurposed their supply chains to also start manufacturing sanitizers. For example, as you also mentioned, ITC and Savlon. ITC, in fact, had two plants which it completely repurposed during the peak of the first wave to start manufacturing Savlon from them, and then of course expanded into a lot of other product lines as well. So for that and for emergency use and to ensure that there is no hoarding and black marketing in such a health emergency situation, the NPPA regulation also came into being in this particular segment. Now, just to give you a very brief snapshot of some of the central and state government incentives that could also be leveraged as you're probably manufacturing from India and making for the world, are just here. Now, these central government incentives are all targeted towards producing for other geographies as well. So they encourage a lot of exports, whether it is the scheme for granting recognition and registration to in-house R&D units, where you get direct and indirect tax exemptions. A lot of write-offs are given on your capital as well as revenue expenditures. Similarly, the government has recently come up with a remission of duties and taxes on exported products under this particular scheme, which is ROTTEP, which covers almost all sectors that exist within India. A lot of the value-added taxes, which are probably not covered in traditional taxes and duty exemptions, are going to be incentivized, and you'll get a duty remission on those if they are catering to exports. Some other traditional schemes that have existed for a long time would be the duty drawback scheme and the export promotion of capital goods scheme, which basically looks at deferred duty payments for using capital goods in the production line. Another scheme that I would like to just briefly mention is the custom bonded warehousing scheme, which has been mentioned here, which goes for deferred duty on capital goods for imported inputs. Then, of course, that's just the first level of incentives. Every state government in India has its own state industrial policy under which there are a host of incentives that you get if you choose to locate in that particular state. How that happens is that every region on that state is given a certain ranking or a benchmark, and basis the location you choose to invest in, you get a package of incentives, so to speak. These incentives can range from capital subsidies to stamp duty exceptions to interest subsidies to other sorts of tax reimbursement, electricity duty exemption, etc. Now here I would like to mention that some states like Gujarat, for example, have recognized this particular sector as a thrust sector for that state. So this actually forms a part of the chemical segment under the Gujarat new industrial policy, and hence it's also eligible for a lot of other incentives if you choose to manufacture in Gujarat, which, as I had already mentioned, already houses a lot of manufacturing entities in this particular space. Another recent development in this regard is the Karnataka government's announcement of coming up with an FMCG catering cluster in the Hubli-Dharwad Marwar region. This would in fact entail an investment of $336 million over the course of 5 years. It aims to attract about 50 odd companies in that particular region and create 50,000 jobs, 50% of which they want to be reserved for women in that particular area. So just trying to tie all those ends together, I also thought that this is an apt moment to mention the success story of a German company in the personal care and hygiene space in India, which is Beiersdorf, which is popularly known in India through its Nivea brand. In fact, Nivea is a brand that even my grandmother still uses. So this has been a common household name since 1964. In fact, even though Beiersdorf decided to establish a manufacturing presence much later in 1994, when it established its India entity in the country. In fact, in 2014. It set up its first production site and regional lab in Sanand region in Gujarat, which was also mentioned in that particular manufacturing cluster slide that I had shown earlier. Now, Beiersdorf, very interestingly, has of course positioned India as one of its key markets for growth going forward. Beiersdorf has even charted a 3-part strategy for India and what they plan to do in India in a phase-wise manner. Out of that, they want to invest over $115 million across a span of 10 odd years. And so far, they have invested about $60 million in a lot of capital and R&D investments in the country. Their revenues have also been steadily growing. In fact, India constitutes a very, very large chunk, contributing to double-digit growth in the parent entity of Beiersdorf's growth consistently over the years. Today, Beiersdorf employs over 700 people in India. It has, it also has a significant corporate presence, not just, in terms of its manufacturing. It's one of the top 3 brands in skincare, which has, of course, been, spearheaded by its great manufacturing presence, its in R&D investments, and its iconic brand positioning, where it has carried forward the Nivea brand and the Nivea name across its product lines. It has also expanded its product portfolio significantly, since it actually established presence in the country, and it has augmented production by adding about 140% to its capacity in a span of only a few years. Another very interesting fact about Beiersdorf is that 8 out of the 9 categories that it manufactures in India are completely domestically produced. Only one category is where it contract manufactures. That is also not where there is import dependence, so to speak. It is also, a front runner in terms of customized product lines being rolled out, catering to the Indian segment and market, where it has tried to get local ingredients and flavors incorporated into, its branding and designing and the products, in fact, that it's rolling out. What's also very, very robust about this growth story is also, its optimism on India as a market, which is consistently, mentioned in a lot of public platforms as well, that it is extremely optimistic about India market as a significant contributor, not just in the APAC region, but to the worldwide name of Beiersdorf. It aims to be, the top brand in the next 3 years in the skincare segment, where currently it is the 3rd. It also wants to expand its export presence. Currently, it is just exporting to South Africa and Russia in the lip care segment, but it wants to enhance both in terms of geographies as well as in terms of product lines, which again goes to show how optimistic they are about India as a growth story, and they want to expand also within the country. Just to wrap things up, giving you a very quick introduction of what we do as an entity. We are the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation arm of the Government of India, formally constituted under the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Our main mandate, as you would have guessed, is of course to facilitate all sorts of FDI investments coming into the country, whether it is providing business advisory, whether it is giving strategic inputs, whether it is helping in the aftercare services of any companies that are looking to either enter India, expand in India, or even facing any operational challenges within the country. So the consumer goods team at Invest India is a dedicated team that looks at companies which are in this particular space from across the world, including India, So if this is a space that interests you, if you're interested to know more about what are some of the benefits you can get, or where could you maybe locate in India, or just have an exploratory chat with us, please feel free to reach out to us on this email ID that's mentioned here, and we'll be happy to answer any questions and help and handhold you on your India journey going forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neelashi, for sharing the excellent information on government policies and also covering some brief overview of personal care sector. So now coming, ladies and gentlemen, now coming to the Q&A session, I would, if you have any questions, please click on raised hand icon on your system, and then I'll unmute you to take your questions. Meanwhile, Sachin, I have received two questions for you. One is about sustainability. How strong sustainability concept is in India? Is it really a topic of talk or something really happening on ground, or what could be the relevant success story for the same? Yeah.
Okay, sure. So, you mean to say what's happening in India when it comes to sustainability, whether
Right.
it's just a topic or something's happening on ground?
That's
So,
right.
definitely yes. Sustainability is a big buzzword in India, and especially after the Paris Agreement in 2016. I think a lot of companies are taking steps in that direction. If we look at our industry landscape in personal care, we have a lot of multinational companies in India. So we have Neelashi just talked about the success story of Bizodov. And then we have Unilever, we have P&G, we have Colgate. You name any big FMCG or personal care company around the globe, they all have manufacturing presence or they have sales presence in India. So all of these companies have their own targets to become carbon neutral by, let's say, 2050. Same is the aim of our government, though they have not really committed something, but same is the aim of our government in terms of the kind of policies they want to bring in terms of the kind of regulations that have come on various sectors in terms of population control. So I would say a lot is happening in the sustainability space. Whether you talk about the reducing the carbon footprint, or you talk about using a sustainable ingredient for your product, or whether you talk about a personal care, or whether you talk about F&B industry. So a lot is being done in this particular regard, and this is one topic where a lot of industry, companies, government, associations, academia come together and taking steps, devising new solutions, so that we are able to fit into the larger scheme of things when it comes to making this globe carbon neutral by 2050. So I think this is definitely a big topic in India, as it is in China, or as it is in Germany, anywhere else in the world. So a lot's happening on this. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Yes,
Sachin.
Ketan,
Yes, Sachin.
You said you have another question for me?
Yeah, it's about basically the success story. If you have any, if you want to highlight any interesting success story in personal hygiene market in India.
Okay. So there are a couple of success stories in India when it comes to this market. One, I think I have Dettol, definitely. Dabur has gained a lot of market share, but then I don't recall the exact numbers as to how much of market share they have gained in the last 1.5 years. But I know there was a research done by Reckitt Benckiser, and they said that they have been able to penetrate 20 million additional households as compared to the last year through these personal hygiene products. Now 20 million households is a big number for a company to penetrate, because it might otherwise take many years to penetrate 20 million households. Now if I take, let's say, 4 people in one household, it becomes 20 million population. You have reached additional 80 million population in just 1 year, which is as big as the size of Germany. So you can see what sort of demand it is, and where it is where it is going. So Reckitt Benckiser has been able to penetrate additional 80 million people over the course of last 1 year. And I also have some statistics from Kantar. Kantar is a very renowned company, and they do a lot of research in consumer goods and FMCG space. Their study said that hand washers are now entering 300,000 households every week for the past few months. So this is the kind of demand that is being generated due to COVID for these particular products, and the companies do not have to do anything to generate this demand. They just have to produce to meet this demand, and they just have to advertise, because there are a lot of companies which are there in the market. But having said that, I think the key to success for these companies, yes, these are big companies. They have their means to reach customers. They have a big portfolio. They have their brands. But what is important is that these companies have a very good distribution network in India. So this is the kind of FMCG product which you will not be able to make success unless you have reach in rural as well as urban areas. So distribution concept is something which is very, very important. And yes, I think I've highlighted a couple of success stories. One of them is definitely that Nivea, which Neelashi talked about.
Right, right. Thank you, Sachin,
That's from my
for
side. Yeah.
thank you for the explanation and highlighting the success story. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for attending today's webinar, and I would also like to thank you, Sachin and Neelashi, for sharing excellent presentations with us. Uh, for the presentations, ladies and gentlemen, I'll share the hard copy with you also, along with the recorded link for the webinar, which so you can also share that with your colleagues and the members who have missed this webinar. So thank you very much again, and looking forward to welcome you for the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.